Welcome to HitPoint. It's the show where we talk about movies, video games, TV shows, and anything else worth talking about. I'm your host, Andrew Jeffries, and I'm once again joined by co-host Jeremy Robbins. Jeremy, how are you doing? You're kind of on this side this time.
Yes. Oh, and you're on this
Oh, there you
side.
go. Yep. We might have rehearsed a little bit, but not enough.
Always
Yeah,
not
we
enough.
yeah, we've got a little bit of a different setup today, so we're trying some new things out. Let us know what you think about it in the comments. But today we are talking about the Xbox Series X games event that was at time of recording. It was just earlier today, so we're going to be giving you our thoughts and reactions to what Microsoft showed us. Jeremy, any big thoughts about the event? Sort of right off the bat, high level overview. What'd you think?
High level overview. I don't know. I'll get my high level overview at the end. Actually.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. We're desperately looking forward to that one. I'm going to go ahead and give mine now. I was I was sort of surprised in not a fantastic way, I would say, in regards to this event. I was hoping to see a lot more gameplay, um, whereas we saw more just acknowledgement that there are going to be games on the Xbox Series X. I mean, we saw a number of Windows exclusive, Xbox exclusives, and a few console exclusives, but not a whole lot of actual gameplay. Most of I think almost entirely, the gameplay was relegated to seeing Halo Infinite, which very much welcomed as a Halo fan, but not a whole lot of like um, big reveals or anything. I mean, not that there weren't big reveals, it's that or reveals that Microsoft would consider big, but I didn't
Hmm.
really feel like there was any particular moment that was like, "Oh man, wow, this is an incredible event. I'm so glad I saw this."
Mm. Yeah, and I mean, good segue to that. You talked about Halo Infinite. That was one of the big things that was shown. Like you said, most of the gameplay. Um, I would say I'll just give my thoughts on Halo Infinite. I think it looks really cool. It will be popping up on the screen here probably soon. Um, but it was definitely there's a lot of hype, of course, going up for Halo, um, and well deserved just because it's been a long time. It's the first big announcement for the next system, but I mean, I was one that came out of that. I was like, okay, cool. They showed some gameplay and awesome. Master Chief has some new tools to use, but beyond that, I wanted to know more. Um,
Hmm.
and the fact that it's end of July, we are potentially 4 months away from the this game coming out as well as the system because everyone's anticipating a November release. Is why didn't they show more gameplay than just a potential level running around and shooting things and not show more of what's new? I mean, it felt very much like any old Halo. Um, I
Yeah.
don't know. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. I think the it felt like very much like any old Halo is actually a good thing because that tells me that they really are interested in the return to form that they've kind of been hinting at with kind of the redesign of Master Chief being a lot more like he was in the original Halo trilogy rather than kind of the more tactical look that they went with in Halos 4 and 5. I was never a big fan of the that particular design, so I really like how it looks now. um, I actually that was probably the game I was most excited about coming out of this. Just well, largely because it's the one we saw the most of, but also because I really like what I'm seeing so far. It's a much more open world direction, and
Mm-hmm.
we talked about this in our top 10 games list. I'm a huge fan of open worlds, and it feels like a really natural evolution of what's known as kind of the Halo sandbox. Um, and Halo's always kind of been a sandbox where you have these situations that you can approach with a lot of different weapons and different vehicles and all of that, and that's been really cool. It got really well developed by Halo 2. 3, Reach, 4, 5, all those games didn't really do a whole lot extra with it.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing more of an open world look, I think, makes a lot of sense for the sandbox because we have a console that's really powerful enough to realize an open world in a really high fidelity first person shooter. Um, I really love the addition of the grappling hook. When I saw the picture of that and everybody was speculating that's what it was, I wasn't sure about that, but seeing it's kind of they're using it in the same way that sort of Doom Eternal introduced the grappling hook, I think that's a really excellent addition to the sandbox with different movement options, new ways of moving objects, new ways of approaching enemies. I think that's really cool. I'm actually pretty pumped about it. And I'm not super hyped for Halo Infinite. I'm trying to hedge my bets a little bit on that one, just because
Mm-hmm.
I know 343 has not been spectacular on delivering mainline Halo games. Their offshoots have been interesting, but their main ones have not been my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed 4. I've never actually played 5 to any sort of completion because I just kind of just bounced right off of it. A bit of an off-putting game, but I'm pretty excited with what I'm seeing so far with Halo Infinite.
Yeah, and that's, I guess I should correct my statement in the sense of it's not like I'm not that it's not like I don't want more of what Halo has been. I think it's more of because the fact it's going to a new system, it does look cool because it does look like it's more open world. But I wish they would have shown more. What does that of if that's the case? What does that actually entail?
Sure.
Because it
Yeah.
looked like when you first start this, you have some quests in the upper left hand corner of your screen of where you need to go take out some guns. But so my question is with an open world, does that also add in where you can go to a lot of different people and get different quests? Or is it just going to
Mhm.
be a story driven thing where you have quests that are given to you, and you just have a lot of places you can go? Um,
Yeah.
that's more of the stuff I was like wondering for this being the first time showing the game, why not show more of what makes it different while still maintaining the same Halo feel?
Mm. Yeah. No, that's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, it would be nice to see more on that.
Mm.
Yeah, how the open world system does actually function. I've seen some speculation online that it might be a little bit like Metro Exodus, where there's big chunks of the game that is open world, but then there's a lot of linear levels kind of within that,
Mm.
and not in the same way that an open world game has quest areas too. It seems to be its own like maybe segmented thing. I've not played Metro Exodus, so I can't speak on this, but
Same.
uh, yeah, if that is the case, it'll be pretty cool to see what they do with it.
Mm. Well, and that's the thing of where I know I said to wait to the end. I'll talk a little bit about what my thoughts just briefly is X in this showcase because we're getting ready to move on to other games. They showed a lot of games, and it felt what I feel out with Halo was it's the same I'd say about all the rest of the games is they showed a lot of glimpses and didn't go into any detail. And
Mm.
so it left it very hard to get excited about any one particular game
That's
because
very true.
yeah,
Yeah.
just because it was like they just showed trailer after trailer, whether it was a gameplay trailer or just a trailer of the game, and that was it. And so it's like, oh, that looked cool, but I know nothing about it.
Yeah. And that's really funny because we saw basically Sony do the exact same thing with their PlayStation 5 event. But you and I were talking about this a little bit. The differentiator here is the PS5 event was also the big reveal for the console. So this
Mm-hmm.
entire time, you're seeing these cool games you're seeing what can happen on this new system before we've seen the system, and they really rounded it out with the look at the system and finally getting to see the PlayStation 5.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot more built-in like inner hype. Microsoft just started right off with the big guns of Halo Infinite. That was what they've been talking about. They've been
Yep.
talking up Halo Infinite for I don't know, probably the better part of a month now with regards to this. So for them to just start with that, I mean, that is starting with a bang, which is great. But when you don't really have anything else to really show,
Mm-hmm.
that sort of gets deflated. And I made the mistake of looking at one of the live chats that was going on, which never do. And people were there was a much saltier attitude with
Mm-hmm.
this particular showcase than there was with PlayStation 5, or at least
Hmm.
that was my glimpse at it. Sure seemed a lot saltier. People were happy to see Halo for a bit and then just didn't really care about the other games.
You know, so I mean, with that, that's basically the case of when you move on and you look at like the next game they talked about was State of Decay 3. I
Mm.
couldn't have told you that there was a State of Decay or a State of Decay 2. So it wasn't.
I I I have actually played both. I have the first one, and I played the second one on Game Pass. They're fun. They're
Mm,
fun. They're not. They're kind of the definition of like a 7 out of 10, where it's a good game. Uh, I couldn't really tell you a whole lot else about it because I don't remember a whole lot about it.
yeah, and so I mean that's kind of like I was like I haven't heard anyone clamoring for another State of Decay game.
Yeah.
So like that was just kind of especially to follow that up from Halo is kind of like well that's odd.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
State of Decay does fill a weird spot for Microsoft, where that was sort of a franchise that they've really tried to push, um, but I don't think has ever really taken substantially in a way that most other franchises do. So um, I did like the little reveal that they had with this one, where the wolf is getting eaten by the deer or
mm-hmm.
moose or whatever it was. But that was neat. That was well played. I don't know if I'll actually play the game, but I did like
Mm-hmm.
that moment in the trailer.
Yeah, and I would agree. I mean it looked visually stunning, but it's the thing of very likely that's not what the game's going to look like anyways.
Right? Yeah,
Um,
pre-rendered cutscenes and all that.
yeah, but I mean the next game they talked about, I don't really have a lot to say about it because I don't really play. I've never played the original. I have it on my computer now, but I haven't played it yet. They announced another Forza game. Um, this one called Forza Motorsport. So I mean, you've had Forza Horizon, lots of Forza Horizons, and I know there's a diehard fan base for that. I have a good friend who really loves that series. So I mean, I understand having another one, but again, it was a clip where they didn't really show much, and so it's like, oh, cool, Indy cars.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't have a lot to say about Forza. I've played I played Forza Horizons 4, I think. I played whichever one has the changing seasons that they featured a lot.
Mm-hmm.
um, it was nice.
Yep.
Yeah, so I don't get super stoked about racing games in general.
Nope. Well, the next game that they showed, though, I know a lot of people in the pre-shows were really excited about wanting to see more. Was this game called Everwild? I
This is the
actually,
mhm.
oh, I was gonna say I
Sorry,
actually hadn't heard about it. So
neither have I. Yeah,
seeing the little bit that they shown here, again, only a trailer, no gameplay, so that kind of was like, oh, cool, it looks pretty. It had very much had some Breath of the Wild vibes for me, of just
hmm
art style. But it does look just intriguing because there's more than one character that it looks like that's going to be involved.
yeah, yeah, and it's from Rare too, so there's kind of a built-in like, ooh, what's Rare doing now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is probably the one I was probably the second most excited I was to see, and I hadn't heard of this one either, but I'm really digging the atmosphere that they're giving. It's not pushing graphical fidelity by any means, but it doesn't need to. Um, the world that they have made artistically is intriguing enough for me that I'm wanting to see more of this game.
Yeah, and I would agree. It looked really cool. It's one of those of where I'm definitely going to keep an eye out on it, just or for it, just to see what else happens. Um, but for now, it's kind of just a wait and see. Um, and from here on out, I'll just say the rest of the stuff that was shown in the conference was just a lot of game after game. Nothing really stood out to me, except for like a couple. So I mean, the couple things that stood out to me were that they showed a game called Tell Me Why, which I think is made by the same people who made Life is Strange, because it looks like the exact same art style. The one question I had while watching that trailer is why is the facial structure still weird unless that's just a artistic choice? Because you think by now with next gen systems they'd be able to make people's faces move with their mouths, but so I mean they talked about that, and another one that stood out to me was the game Grounded. It looks like it could be a lot of fun. It's They're coming out with a kind of like a beta type thing. They're not calling it a beta, but a time to be able to try out the game on the 28th. So I'm going to be definitely looking into that because that did look like it could be a lot of fun. then and also oh, who are the people? What's their who's the game company?
Obsidian.
Yeah, Obsidian. They announced
Yeah.
the RPG that they're working on.
Avowed. Yeah.
Yeah, Avowed, and
Yes.
that was one where I was like, oh, okay, that
Yep.
looks intriguing because
Yeah. Uh, I
it.
had a good laugh about that one, just because if you're not familiar with Obsidian, they used to be the original developer that long time ago under a different name. They used to be the original developers of Fallout. They recently made a game called The Outer Worlds, which very much looks like it was trying to be a Fallout type of RPG, in the same way that Bethesda does, and it got a lot of accolades for its story, which the Bethesda Fallouts are not known for. So there was sort of this teasing attitude from the Outer Worlds fans in particular, like, haha, Obsidian's made a better Fallout. Fallout, Bethesda, look at us. And now with Avowed, it looks like they're going for Skyrim, and it's like, oh, maybe this is less teasing than we thought, and them actually trying to be like, hey, Bethesda, this is how you do it. And I'm very excited for this. Bethesda has a lot of really talented writers, so I'm very excited to see whatever RPGs that they might be coming out with.
Yeah, and I would agree. I'm excited about this one. Like, it looks very intriguing. It's if it is anything like the Elder Scrolls series, like you can already tell they're trying to do something different with the spell work, just in the little clip of how it all came about. So, yeah, this is one that definitely stood out to me. I'm like, okay, this could be something worth trying once it's out. But again, just a little bit of a teaser, not really much shown, and you really don't have any idea when it's actually coming out. So because that's the other thing. A lot of these games they didn't give any release dates. Some of them they had said 2021 or some date here in the next few months, but then a good chunk of them said nothing. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was kind of just weird in that aspect where you're like, okay, so when is that actually going to come out? Because I would like to play it.
Right.
um,
Um,
yeah, I mean, I know you missed out on a part of it and had to come back and watch. But was there anything in this little section of where they just went game after game that stood out to you?
Not terribly. I was interested in Stalker 2. I don't know if we're quite to that point yet. I was pretty interested in that because the original Stalker, I think, was a PC exclusive. If not, it's probably most well known for its PC presence. It's a very niche game, I believe, that a lot of people really love deeply. So it didn't get a huge release, but the people who played it really loved it, and it was a really good way of had a really well paced world, from what I understand, in terms of difficulty, and very much a lot of people enjoyed. So I was surprised to see that Stalker 2 is coming as a Series X exclusive, or at least appears to be a Series X exclusive right now. Um, yeah, I don't know. Did you have any thoughts on that particular section with the actual console exclusives?
No, I really didn't. So I didn't. Nothing really stood out to me. I will say to back up a little bit. One, I thought it was hysterical that Jack Black is doing a voice in a game slash the
Oh
music.
yeah,
But
yeah,
then also I did think it's a pretty bold move that Destiny 2 is coming to Game Pass in November, like in the next few months. Just
yeah. Didn't it go free to play though?
it did, but it's but being on Game Pass, you're gonna get everything. You're gonna get all the expansions,
Oh,
including the newest expansion coming out in November.
that
So
is interesting. Okay, I didn't realize
I
that.
thought that was a very bold move to put it on
Yeah.
there to where you just get everything that comes with the game now if you have Game Pass.
Mm.
So I
And
will probably move to playing Destiny on the PC now.
join me. And internet commenters, I did see in the video that Soccer 2 did show for Windows PC as well, so it is not a Series X exclusive. My apologies.
Oh. Well, that's interesting because Stalker 2 was in the console exclusive section. So,
Yeah, I saw right at the very end it said the Series X and then Windows PC. So.
there were only two other things that stood out to me in the rest of this. One was that they did announce that Sea of Thieves, Forza, Gears 5, all those games are going to be part of the smart delivery. So if you currently own it on Xbox One, you can get it on the Xbox One X for free.
Mm.
So I was like, that's the first we've seen a studio come out and say, hey, we're going to actually upgrade you for free for games you've owned for over a year potentially.
Yeah, years.
Yeah.
Sea of Thieves, yeah, because Sea of Thieves was 2016, 2015, I think. It's an older one. I mean, it's not old, but it's not
Mm-hmm.
new.
No, not by any means. And that shocked me because you don't normally see anything like that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to see Microsoft putting their money where their mouth is to with being like, hey, there's this cool smart delivery program we have. Why don't you guys get on board? But to date, we hadn't seen them
Now,
really
you may
support outside of any of the newly announced titles. So it's cool to see them going back and really kind of really pushing that almost backwards compatible mindset that they've uh, they've always been in support of with their consoles. So really cool to see them follow through on that.
Yep, I would agree. And I mean, it's one of those where it kind of could leave Sony looking kind of like a kid with their pants on the ground because Xbox is really pushing that and they're really trying to appeal to their fan base with it, and Sony's kind of like, we just want people to get the PS5. At least that's the way it looks like right now, and it's like, but you could still play your PS4 games. So it's kind of weird because at some point they're going to release Marvel Spider-Man on the PS5. They're going to release Horizon Zero Dawn, all these remastered versions, but they're probably not going to come till sometime later next year. So it's one of those where I'm like, man, Sony, I think that's actually a genius move to help out your customers. To actually let them upgrade their games and not have to make them buy it again, even if it is at a reduced price.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we kind of we hit on that a little bit in our next gen systems overview
Yeah.
video, where we very much want to see Sony adopting these same sorts of programs that
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft is doing, because they've been knocking it out of the park with those. Quite honestly,
Mm-hmm.
I've been very impressed with those. So I want to see Sony do those too, because I really like them a lot. But I like the PlayStation platform better. So I'd love to see the equivalents uh, really start really start making their way over to that particular ecosystem. I mean, I know we have PlayStation Now, but it's nowhere near as robust as
Mm-hmm.
Game Pass. So let's hope Sony watched this too and came away with the same thoughts, that they want to provide a better experience, the same sort of experience Microsoft is providing.
Yep. Well, and the last thing that stood out to me, which was the last thing they announced at the conference, I'm going to go ahead and just play the video and then talk about it because the video was so good, even though being so short, that I'm cheating and I have to show just a little bit. Show it.
Mm-hmm.
world premiere.
So on a scale
The
of
world is
1
filled with stories
how excited were you when this
of legendary heroes,
when this happened?
treacherous villains,
I'll tell you afterwards.
Okay.
of fantastical creatures and wondrous places where nature and magic live in perfect harmony. Not all stories have happy endings. But yours has yet to be written.
So is that like a 12 or?
So I'm sitting there when that first starts, and I'm just like in this chair, just like, oh, please, 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 please be what I've been waiting for this whole stinking conference or this whole showcase. And like I got really nervous when it was just showing a fairy, but the guy talking in the background, I was like, that's the voice from Fable. But then it's
Yeah.
like this fairy and everything. I'm like, oh great, are my hopes gonna be dashed right here? And then when the frog ate it, I was like, yes, this is Fable.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, this fairy's way too generic for it to be the whole thing. This is gonna get subverted, and lo and behold, it was subverted.
You know,
Uh,
but oh
that's
yeah,
Fable.
I mean, I'm pumped for Halo. I'm excited for Halo. I'm very much with Halo. It's more so. It's like I need to see more before I get really hyped up, especially the multiplayer. Because if the
Right.
multiplayer, like we've touched on in like our top 10, of like if it's like what it's been recently, I probably won't be as excited anymore. Because
Hmm.
I want to go back to the old school type stuff like Halo 3, which a lot of people are starting to feel that way now that Halo 3 is out on PC. As more
Yes.
people are playing it again, they're like, this is the way I want multiplayer to be on the new Halo. So
Hmm.
I'm hoping that 343 is paying attention, because that will get me hyped up. But I am super stoked for Fable. Ending with Fable and confirming it after they had been denying that it was coming all leading up to this was just that made me so happy. And so excited, but I know it's probably not going to come out till like holiday next year at the earliest.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I was happy to see that. I'm definitely not as excited as you, because I mean I like Fable. I enjoyed Fable 3 in particular. We talked about that in our top 10 games list. Watch it's no, other side. It's over there
it might
by Jeremy's head,
it might
maybe
be
if we
up there.
remember, if we remember to put it in. Um as I like Fable, but I'm not a huge Fable fan. But I am excited to see
Hmm.
what they're going to do with the series now, considering the last Fable game was a Connect tie-in.
Hmm.
It will be nice to have an actual Fable game once more.
Well, and it's this one. It looks like because it's not numbered, it's going to be a totally revamping. So
Yes,
that's
that's a good
that.
point.
That's also exciting because that means it's a new team doing the game. It's not the same developers, so it's going to be their take. But you can already tell they're going to try to maintain the humor that the old ones had.
Yeah,
So that makes me excited, and I'm excited to see more as they can release more. But overall, I've kind of touched on it. My take on the whole conference was they showed a lot of games, and there's a couple that to get excited that seemed exciting, but it would have been nice to see more gameplay. It just would
yeah,
have been nice to see how some of these games are actually going to work to get you pumped up. Because right now, all it is teasers that you're just like, oh, that looks cool, but you have no idea how it might actually play to entice you to actually try
yeah,
it and actually
yeah.
want to buy it.
Yeah, I almost wish they would have shown Halo last now. Like the exact same, I think you could have had the exact same show
Mm-hmm.
shown in pretty much the exact same way, except you put Halo right at the very end and you
Mm-hmm.
end with 8 minutes of gameplay on Xbox Series X, and
Yep.
people would have been a lot more pumped about what they saw. Because you're building up to something then, and you're also actually seeing real gameplay and not just another trailer.
Yep,
Yeah,
I would agree. A lot of people would have been upset because the fact they've been waiting and waiting, and then especially having to wait to the end if they didn't like what was being shown. You would have had a lot of people bashing it for that also, because you're like, I have to sit through all this crap to finally be able to see Halo. But
yeah,
I mean, they were to where because the fact they didn't. I mean, that's what it shows. Outside of Halo, they didn't have a very strong showcase
yeah,
because you would have either had people be upset after seeing Halo because nothing else was good as good, or you would have had everyone be ticked that they had to sit through all of it before they got to Halo.
yeah,
So I mean that I think wraps it up as a showcase itself. There's some cool looking games because of the way they presented it all. I'm not super pumped. I would if I
yeah.
was a person on the fence between Xbox and PlayStation for next gen. I wouldn't be so excited about getting an Xbox right now.
Hmm.
I would be,
Yeah,
especially since you could play some on PC if you have a PC.
yeah, exactly. I will say, like, I don't think it was necessarily a bad showcase. It just wasn't. It didn't excite me as much as I was hoping it would.
Mm-hmm.
I liked almost all the games that they showed. I can't think of all the ones I saw. The one I don't really think I remember any that I was like, oh, that just looks really dumb.
Mm.
I think they brought a lot of like, um, to use baseball terminology, a lot of kind of singles and doubles where okay,
Mm-hmm.
great, you're on the bases, but you haven't gotten that home run yet. Outside of Halo, and even Halo, I think was only a triple.
Yeah.
Sorry if you don't understand baseball. I don't really understand baseball either, and I'm trying to use these metaphors, so I could be wrong entirely, but I think I've gotten them. Um, yeah, they're just a lot of good games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't think of any bad ones, but just I don't know, just like it just sort of fell flat a little bit for me.
Yep. And I'd say the closest they got to a home run was with Fable because everyone was anticipating it. But I would say it was a long fly ball that hit the wall that only became a double.
I don't understand other than the double part, anything you just said. And I think with that, we might have exhausted everything we have to say about the Xbox Series X games showcase. That's all we have for this episode of HitPoint. I've been Andrew Jeffries.
And I've been Jeremy Robbins.
Thank you so much for watching, and please do keep an eye on your health bar.